صورنا زي اربع صور صورها قرب عليها زوم.
طبعا طبعا.
عشان هذه بدنا ندفع هذا انا بجيب لك اياها من عندهم السفاره.
بدكش المؤخرة أصابع 20
بدنا كلمات.
اوكي.
ركز لي على التوم.
Okay, so guys, take a look at this building, the heights that you see. We're going to talk about this building. I'm going to have to move you a little bit. First of all, you're blocking better. And second of all, so this house, a gorgeous house from the end of the 19th century, which we are going to not just look at but also enter, was built by a family named Clark. We're going to talk about them, but just remember it as Clark House. Okay? It's very Clark. It's very significant by the oblak, right? The red and white, and you can see the very special window on top with the four round circles. See that? Yo. Now, if you guys take a look at the Mamilla Street, which I want to remind you is Gaza Road, as you can see here, it's very straight. But then at this point, it bends a little, right? It turns right. And when we're looking at this photo, which I already showed you, here we are. Here's the Clark House. So you can see that the street did go straight. We would have expected it to go straight through Levi's in order to get to Jaffa Road. So what happened? What happened? This is 1938. Okay, so the thing that happened, I'm going to tell you the story by using pictures. Let's start with this photo from the same year, 1938. The photographer was standing over a roof up there, which means he looked at Clark House from across the street, looking towards the Jaffa Gate. Okay, so you can see that the road was definitely straight, and at the end, it got to Jaffa Road in order to get together to Jaffa Gate. Yofi? Good. The thing that happened was that the city was split in 1940. This is 1938, so exactly 10 years later, the city was split in between Jordanians and Jordan and Israel. Now, this area right here was in no man's land, and that is because the Jordanians were inside the city, inside the old city, and Israel was on the other side. So how come we have the no man's land? That is because I hope you talked about it, about the two generals sitting together in Musrara. Each one of them was marking in dots the front spot is where his soldiers were sitting, and at the end, each one of them connected his dots together to make a straight line. So most of the places, the two lines, the Jordanian line and the Israel line, would attack each other because the Jordanian soldiers were right in front of the Israelis, but in some places they weren't. And usually because of topography or there was something blocking in the middle. So here, for example, the Jordanian line was on the walls, but the Israeli line was here. Let me show you the two lines, how they looked when you zoom in to where we are. The yellow is the old city. I marked the Sultan Pool just to give you an understanding of where we are. The red line, the Jordanian line, is over here on the walls, and then the green line, the Israeli line, a bit afar, and we are right here. I mean, this is Mamilla Road, and you can see that the last part of Mamilla Road was in the no man's land. Now, let's be very precise. Where was exactly the line, and why is it important? Because then it'll help us understand what's happening with the remains of the street. Obviously, every soldier the soldiers would be sitting on the top spots in the area, right? I mean, the Jordanians were on the walls, and if we're trying to figure out where the Israeli soldiers, they were, of course, choosing the highest spot. So, Clark House was definitely the highest. That's why they were sitting there. That's why the mark, the dot, was on this house. That's why the green, the border line was crossing from there, which means if we are talking of where the border was exactly, it's more or less where we're standing. Let me show you a photo. from the 50s, showing you Clark House. I think it's easy to recognize, right? I'm very happy the house is still there. Showing you that the wall, the border, is right there. All right, let's compare it, all right? Before and after. This is showing you Mamilla Road before, which was going straight. But also,
الطباب يا
of course,
جماعة.
you can see that it goes straight, but unfortunately with lots of ruins and debris all over, because that was the no man's land,
ايوه هاي العمارة.
right? That's the no.
Yeah.
We're now in the
هون
no
كان
man's
إسرائيلية.
land. Ken.
ده أبلغ.
1958,
يعني هون.
1957.
بس هذا بحكي عنه.
Okay?
عموما
Exactly here.
Alright.
You see the Clark House? Where Clark House ends, that's where you have the wall. Which means, by the way,
مين حطه؟
which means that if we're
إسرائيل.
looking at this building,
الحدود بينه وبين الأردن.
that's the last building that survived and that was already in the no man's
هذا
land.
يعني
Okay, so, in 1967, when the borders were taken off, when we crossed the road, this was what you could see on the other side. Everything was completely destroyed, most of it because it was destroyed or hurt during the war, 1948, and since nobody lived in it for 19 years, it was a complete balagan. I was here once with a group of a family from Haifa, and later on they sent me this photo, which was taken right after the border was open, and they came to visit the Kotel, the Western Wall, and that's where they had to step, in all this balagan, debris, ruins, etc., etc. Okay, so let me show you one last photo of the street, and I'm so happy that the photographers stood on the same roof, Baruch Hashem. This is a photo from 1971, Clark House again, showing you that all the ruins were cleared, and the road did continue on going in the same direction, in a straight line. Right? So I actually put them all together
هاي العمارة.
in one photo for you to parallel them. Starting 1938, you can see Mamilla Road, Gaza Road. You see the split city in 1957, and here in 1971, you still see that the street goes exactly the same way. Okay, so Makara, Shusar. What happened, right? Very simple. When they decided to turn this section of the road into a mall, they decided to get rid of, as you can see, there were no ruins around. You want to have more stores. And also I want to remind you of the decision to take Jaffa Road and stick it lower in order to put it underneath. So there are different levels here. If this road would have gone straight to how it used to be, we would have fall into the road, right? So they wanted to separate the cars from the shoppers, get you more stores, and therefore, beginning here, there is nothing historical at all on the way to Jaffa Gate. Yes? Questions? Yes.